Hey, it's Jared. In this video, we're going to walk through my GoPro case. This is my action camera case that has everything that I take with me when I'm going to be using action cameras in whatever I'm shooting. Often that means that I need some sort of angle that I can't typically get with a regular camera, like my Sony a7 IV, FX3, any of that stuff, something that needs to be close to the action or perhaps put in a predicament where it might get damaged. That's when I go for GoPros. So in this case is a variety of things that I use quite often, and we're going to walk through that. So first of all, this is a PELICAN 1400 series case. They make them a little bit lighter weight these days. I've had this one for quite some time. This case has traveled all over the United States. Sometimes it's been carried on as luggage. Other times it's been inside of other luggage. Sometimes it's just in the back of my truck or something like that as I'm navigating to wherever I'm going to shoot. And oftentimes it's just in the back seat of my truck as I'm shooting something more local. So in the box, I've got a lot of stuff. I'll do my best to walk through all of this and pull most of it out. It's actually kind of a mess because things don't always fit that well in this box. It's very hard with all of the little accessories and stuff like that for each one to have its own little spot. Don't fret over that. Having a little individual spot for each and everything means that you're probably going to be using up a lot of space just by having everything organized. And these cameras are supposed to be action cameras, and the accessories can have scratches. They can have dings and stuff like that. It's not a big deal, and I don't care so much if the dings come from my case or not. So as you can see, I've got a separation system in here. I really like this grid system. I use them in the majority of all of my PELICAN cases, and it makes it very easy for me to adjust the size here. They make the inserts that are Velcro, but you do end up losing a lot of space with those Velcro separators. So I'll put a link down in the description to this insert system that you cut to length and comes to fit this particular case. It actually comes with a lot more dividers that I'm not currently using, but I like it because these are thin walls and they're very sturdy. So let's move on. I'm going to pull out, first of all, the GoPro 11. This one I have mounted to a system here that is a magnetic system. And what I like about this is that with this, I can attach this magnetically to pretty much anything. It's got 4 very strong magnets here. And just as you can see, here's a backing plate, and it snaps on, and I mean, it really takes a lot to get it off. So if you need to magnetically attach your GoPro to anything, this system works great. It also comes with a couple additional brackets as well. What's good about this is that if I wanted to go first person or something like that, I could put this down in my shirt, and I mean, boom, I'm right there. I know it's not very lined up. I can tug on this quite a bit, and I've got that first person shot. And so this works really well for that. Primarily, I end up using this system on a shirt when I'm shooting some camera tutorials or something like that. I have a Sony a7 IV course, a couple of Canon courses as well, and my Ditch Auto course, which helps you get out of automatic mode on your camera and start shooting in manual. I use this because I can mount it here and I can easily show what I'm doing with the camera. I also use this magnetic system for just sticking my GoPro on surfaces without having to have any sort of other bracket. This works better sometimes than a suction cup mount, and I have a couple of different suction cup mounts. The suction cup mounts work really well on extremely flat surfaces that are non-porous and windshields and stuff like that. It's going to work great on windows and stuff like that, but not on textured. This doesn't care as long as it can attach to it magnetically. Now I have a variety of these suction cup mounts. These PGYTECH suction cup mounts are really good for just a single GoPro. It has a 1/4-20 on the bottom, and so I have a lot of 1/4-20 to GoPro adapters in my bag because sometimes I am utilizing these and attaching this mount to the suction cup mount and then putting GoPros wherever. If I'm rigging up a car or an airplane with a lot of GoPros, I'm using suction cup mounts quite often, and these provide a lot of adjustment. You know, I've got this RAM mount, which is maybe more durable and can handle more weight, but it doesn't necessarily flex as well. You see, I'm at a 90 degree here, and all I can do is go forward or backward, and then maybe like 20 or 30 degrees, 20 degrees side to side. And so this doesn't provide the flexibility that this PGYTECH does, but the PGYTECH is not as sturdy. There's a little bit more vibration there. And in this knuckle here, you can release the pressure and then it rotates really nicely. And then you can lock it and you can still move it. I'm not really pushing too terribly hard, as you can see, and you can still move it. I've tried a handful of different suction cup mounts and all of them have some sort of weak point, whether it's the range of motion or it is how tight things hold. And so I can make some adjustments here. You know, I can't tighten this down anymore. You can rotate this and pull this out completely, but it doesn't have any way to really tighten that down and make this attachment non-movable. So if I was mounting this outside of a vehicle, perhaps maybe the wind could push a GoPro and push it over a little bit. So I wouldn't use this mount outside, but I always use this mount inside. And what's great about that is that if you're in a weird windshield position or somewhere in a vehicle, this is typically going to articulate in a fashion where you can get around, easily position the camera where you want it. PGYTECH, great for, you know, situations where your GoPro's not going to encounter a ton of vibration or wind or something that might be pushing at it. Whereas the RAM mount, not as much articulation, but I mean, I tighten that thing down. There's no moving this. It would snap, it would break before there's any movement that would be allowed there. So like I said, links in the description, you can check that out. We also have a GoPro 11 mini here, and the mini has just been great because it's so small. You kind of set it and forget it. The only thing that I don't like about this, I've grown accustomed to using the displays on the GoPros. You know, back in the day, we were using the app because the displays weren't that good. Now the displays are pretty good, but on the mini, you don't have anything other than that tiny display on top. And so even though the mini has some really cool mounting points and overall it's just a great form factor and much easier to get into tight spots than the bigger 11. It's a great accessory to the 11 full-size GoPro. The full-size GoPro, definitely much easier to use because you don't necessarily need the app. The mini, you kind of have to get it set up and make sure you have all your settings and everything dialed in the app. And then you have the little tiny screen on top just to verify that you're in the right mode. I also have from SMALLRIG a camera cage for the 11, even though on the front of it, it says 910 black. It also fits the 11. I think they've updated that. I've just had this one for quite some time. This is cool because it is an additional cage with mounting points for your GoPro. A lot of times I will mount like an external microphone on here. And then this down here allows for you to put the microphone attachment in, which should be around here somewhere. And you plug into the side of your GoPro with the USB-C cable. And then it provides both USB-C for charging pass-through and also a microphone jack. So you can plug in that microphone and get audio. I often use this setup in airplanes. And so with airplanes capturing the radio, audio, I wire that in and run it right into a GoPro so that I get audio, which is great. This big contraption I won't spend much time on. This is a camera mount for an airplane strut, and I will mount this on a strut of an airplane, and it straps down really tight, and then I can mount a GoPro on it. These are two of those additional magnetic brackets that this magnet system comes with. It comes with enough to support multiple GoPros. This one right here has a little bit more of an arm on it, so that way you get more rotation with the GoPro. These two do not have as much rotation, which is fine, but it's nice that it comes with them because then you can mount up multiple GoPros with the magnetic system if you would like. So moving on, another tool that I use quite often is ND filters. I've made a video about ND filters in the past, and ND filters are great because GoPros don't have a ton of manual adjustments. You can't adjust the aperture on the lens of the GoPro, but you can adjust the shutter speed and the ISO. And without having to crank that shutter speed up super high, you can limit the amount of light that comes into your sensor by using an ND filter. This particular set of ND filters is from Tiffin, and there's, I mean, so many different ND filters that are available. I have a big stack of them. I'm often using Tiffin and Freewell ND filters. I'll make sure to link to both of those down below. Tiffin and Freewell both produce amazing glass, and they have different options depending on the level of ND, the amount of light that you want blocked. And then there's also special effects, color type of lenses as well, polarizer lenses, all sorts of great stuff that you can use. This here is the GoPro multi-charger. It charges 2 GoPro batteries at a time, and so I can stick 2 of those GoPro batteries in here and then plug that in USB-C and charge some batteries. So it's a nice little unit to have. I've got a bunch more GoPro batteries in here. I've been switching over to the ENDURO batteries just because they're so much better than the old style GoPro battery. The older style GoPro battery that's in blue here wasn't bad, but it's definitely not as good as the ENDURO battery. The ENDURO battery lasts longer. I don't think it charges faster, but I feel like it does. But those ENDURO batteries are great, especially if you are in harsher weather, hotter, colder temperatures. Those batteries are going to hold up a little bit better. Must have something to do with the chemistry of those batteries. From time to time, I will switch out the door on the side of the GoPro with this door that has an opening for USB-C charging. So you can see here, I've got the standard GoPro door on right now, which I need to open all the way to access that charging port. If I didn't have this door closed and I tried to charge the GoPro, the battery could just easily fall out. There's nothing really holding it in place. But I can easily switch out this door with this other door, which just snaps right on. And then when I close that, I've got access to the USB-C port so that I can run constant power to this GoPro. If I'm going to be recording for a longer period of time, the battery won't last the entire time. So I can run power to this GoPro and make sure the GoPro has power all the time, and I don't have to risk the battery falling out either. So these doors are great. I have a whole bunch of them here because at times I've had a lot more GoPros. Sometimes for special use cases where I need a lot of GoPros, I'll just rent them so that way I don't have to go out of pocket on all of the GoPros. Most of the time I usually end up having like 3 or 4 GoPros to my name at any given time. So I've got lots of these little GoPro doors here because it's often that I'm filming for a longer period of time, and I will run a little cable to a battery bank, something like this little battery bank. It has USB-C, and then I can power the GoPro for an extended period of time. Variety of GoPro mounts with adhesives there because never fails. I'm always out of adhesives, so I've got a whole kind of pile of adhesives in the bottom. And these are not GoPro brand adhesives. These are third-party adhesives, but it's 3M tape. I mean, this is 3M VHB tape. It's the same tape that GoPro uses on their mounts, and you can get this stuff extremely cheap on Amazon. Got a huge bag full of mounts and adhesives, and it costs a fraction of what GoPro sells them for. So I also have this articulating arm with a clamp mount on it. A lot of times I end up having to clamp a GoPro somewhere, so I have this mini clamp here. This is a MANFROTTO nano clamp is what it's actually called. And then I have this arm, which is also MANFROTTO, just a small little micro arm, the 244 micro. With the 1/4-20 on this side, this allows me to clamp a GoPro and mount it anywhere. If something is not working out with the articulation I have on one of these other mounts and I can clamp instead, this allows me to go any which direction I want to go. I mean, I can go any direction, get a GoPro at any angle that I want. And so I always have this with me because it never fails. I need to get a certain angle and something's in the way, but thankfully there's something that I can clamp to. There have even been times that I've taken this ball head off of here, and so I've taken this ball head off completely, or this arm off of the ball, then just clamped straight onto the ball. I mean, sometimes you have to get crazy and try different things, but if you want to get the shot, having the tools with you, having the accessories with you that you need so that you can make stuff happen is important. So the clamp is great. It comes in handy in so many different situations. I have a Peak Design mount here, which allows me to mount a GoPro to that Peak Design clamp that can mount to a backpack strap. Here's the microphone adapter by GoPro, USB-C out of the side of the GoPro. So that's another reason to use the door on the side that just has a hole for USB-C, is to plug this in, and then you run your microphone in here to the bottom. Then you run additional power in here if you want to as well. This works great with wireless microphone systems. The closest one that I have sitting to me is this one from COMICA. These wireless microphones that are great for clipping onto a person. I'm sure you've seen them. Rode has them. I use the Rode mic setup as well. And there's so many different brands that are coming out with these. and I can just take this little guy right here. And really what I like about the COMICA setup is that it's so tiny, and I can just clamp it right on the cable here if I wanted to. Or because of the size of this here, if I'm using the cage, I could just slide this right into the cage. This clip here is the same size as the cold shoe mount on the side of the cage, and I could just slip this right in here. I've got the 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter headphone out or microphone out that would go into this little adapter here, because this would slide right in the bottom like so. And then this plugs into the GoPro. This is wireless to the microphone that you've got attached to yourself or someone else. Fantastic. No wires that are traveling from whomever's talking to the camera, which I think is great. I'll link to this COMICA system as well. I've been using it a lot more lately because it's so much more tiny than other systems, and it comes in this case that charges everything. It's absolutely fantastic. And then you can put it in this case, which is still very tiny, and all of your wires and everything go in there. This little guy right here is how I store all of my micro SD cards. I like having extra micro SD cards on me, and then having this micro SD to SD card adapter, because I do all of my editing on a MacBook Pro, which thankfully these days come with an SD card reader. So I have to adapt my micro SD cards to an SD. And so having all of this is great. This is about the thickness of like 2 or 3 credit cards, and I just keep it right here in the case. And this thing is absolutely fantastic. It comes in different colors. It holds 10 micro SD cards and an SD card. It has a little hole here for a lanyard or something like that if you wanted to attach something like that to it. And the last thing that I keep in my case is an Insta360. You know, GoPro has a 360 camera, but it's pretty outdated, and Insta360 has pretty much taken everybody's lunch when it comes to 360 cameras that are consumer affordable. And so I use this 1-inch sensor, fantastic 360 camera, because it captures amazing images. The Insta360 software is easy to use. It's super tiny, it has a 1/4-20 on the bottom. And so I'm often mounting it either to probably this mount, because this is a bit heavier than a GoPro. I have many times mounted it outside of an airplane utilizing this mount here. And so this has been like sticking off of the wing of an airplane flying through the sky multiple times, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've had no issues with it. It's one of the best, probably the best 360 camera on the market for the money right now. This is my GoPro setup. You know, occasionally when I need bigger things, like a lot of times I might be carrying like a selfie stick or something like that that has a 1/4-20, because it gives me adaptability. And of course I can expand this and put a camera up further or further away from something. I mean, I've used the RAM mount, mounted the selfie stick to it, and then extended an action camera way out. These tools are great. They are very useful in a different variety of scenarios. I look forward to what GoPro might be coming out with later this year. And recently DJI has released their Osmo Action 4, which I'll be reviewing and talking about here as well. I'm super excited for the bigger sensor that comes on that camera. So make sure to subscribe. Check out the links down in the description below. Give the video a thumbs up, and we'll see you back in another video soon. Take care.